Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here today because we're tackling one of the most universal, hotly debated financial dilemmas out there. It's one of those questions that literally keeps people up at night. And frankly, it's a topic where our emotions usually end up battling it out with objective math. But today, we're putting emotion aside and letting the numbers do the talking. So, should you pay off your debt or should you invest? The math might actually surprise you. Let's dive right in.
So, picture this scenario for a second and really try to apply this to your own life. Let's say you sit down, you look at your budget, and you realize you have exactly $500 a month to spare. Do you throw that at your debt, or do you put it in the market? Sounds like a pretty simple choice, right? Well, here is the fascinating part. What your gut tells you to do, maybe because you just desperately want to be debt-free, or maybe out of pure FOMO from watching the stock market soar, is often completely different from what the objective math tells you to do. We're going to run the numbers together today so you know exactly which path to choose.
To answer that $500 question, we really have to start with the foundational math. So, let's look at Section 1, the interest rate rule. This is basically the fundamental mathematical principle that acts as your financial compass.
All right, first up, the bad news. 20%. Yikes, right? That number represents the staggering, often crippling cost of credit card debt. If you are carrying a balance in your credit cards month to month, this is the hurdle you're facing. And honestly, personal loans aren't too far behind, usually sitting right around 15%. When you've got debt at these levels, it acts like a massive financial anchor. It is aggressively working against your wealth every single day. So keep that 20% number firmly in your mind as we look at the flip side of the rule.
Now contrast that anchor with an entirely different number, 7 to 10%. This right here represents the stock market's historical average annual return. When you put your money into a broad market investment, historically speaking, this is the type of growth you can expect over the long haul. Now, 7 to 10% is fantastic for building wealth over time, right? But compare that return to the 20% anchor we just talked about.
And that brings us to the ultimate showdown, your debt interest rate versus your expected investment return. This is the stark reality of the math. If your debt is costing you 20%, but you're only making 8% in the market, you are basically running up a down escalator. It's an exhausting battle, and you just won't win it. Paying off that toxic debt first guarantees a massive 20% return. You're stopping those massive interest charges dead in their tracks. It is a guaranteed absolute win.
But wait, it isn't always that black and white. Let's flip the script for a minute. Section 2, when investing actually wins. Because there are absolutely scenarios where holding onto your debt is mathematically the far smarter move. And this is exactly where people's gut instincts really tend to lead them astray. Let's look at why.
We're talking about low-rate debt here. Say you've got a mortgage locked in at 3 to 4%, or maybe some student loans sitting around 5%. If this is the kind of debt you're carrying, the math shifts entirely. Why? Well, because a 4% debt is actually what we call cheap money. While you are paying that super low interest rate, inflation is just humming along in the background, actively eroding the real value of what you owe over time. So in real terms, your debt is actually getting cheaper. When your debt is this cheap, rushing to pay it off might literally cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars in missed opportunities. Let me show you exactly what I mean by that.
Just look at the power of compounding right here. If your debt is only costing you 4%, taking that $500 a month and investing it at a 7% average return over 30 years, that snowballs into over $600,000. That totally dwarfs the cost of carrying that 4% debt. In this specific case, holding on to the low-interest debt and letting your investments compound in the market is a massive mathematical victory.
Oh, and investing wins even harder when you introduce this reality, 50 to 100%. This is the ultimate financial trump card. If your employer offers a 401k match, that match represents a 50 to 100% instant return on your money. I really want to repeat that because it's just so incredibly vital. A 50 to 100% instant return. There's absolutely no investment on earth that beats that. Not stocks, not real estate, nothing. When you have access to this, you always capture the full match first, regardless of what other debt you might have going on. It's literally free money.
Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Personal finance isn't always perfectly black and white, right? It's not just a binary choice between 20% credit cards and a 401k match. So what about all the gray areas? Let's move to Section 3, 4 crucial decision factors.
These are the variables you absolutely must consider. First, just like we've been talking about, what is your debt's interest rate? Is it that toxic high-interest debt or the cheap low-interest kind? Next, check your emergency fund status. You definitely need a cash buffer before you start getting super aggressive with either debt or investing.
Then, consider the tax-advantaged accounts available to you, like a 401k or a Roth IRA, because those protect your growth from taxes. And finally, your personal timeline and risk tolerance. When are you actually going to need this money? And how much market fluctuation can you really stomach? I gotta warn you, missing just one of these factors could easily result in a $50,000 mistake over the next decade. It is that serious. You have to look at the whole shebang.
So how in the world do we balance all this without making that $50,000 mistake? By using Section 4, the hybrid wealth strategy. All right, here is your actionable step-by-step game plan. Step 1, always capture your employer's full 401k match. Like we just learned, that is a 50 to 100% instant return. Free money always comes first. Step 2, attack and pay off any high-interest debt above 7 to 8%, simply because that debt is costing you way more than you can safely earn in the market. Step 3, max out your Roth IRA if you're eligible so you can take advantage of that incredible tax-free growth. And finally, Step 4, any extra funds you have left over can be directed toward your remaining lower-interest debt or taxable investments, strictly depending on those interest rates. This hybrid approach is just brilliant because it perfectly balances safety, guaranteed returns from debt payoff, and massive compounding wealth from investing.
Now, of course, this strategy isn't totally one-size-fits-all. Because your specific numbers matter, you really shouldn't just guess. You can actually head over to investinglab.com and use their free debt versus invest calculator. You just plug in your exact debt interest rate, your exact monthly amount, like that $500 we talked about earlier, and your own investment return assumptions. It'll show you, side by side, exactly which path builds more wealth for your specific situation. No guesswork involved, no signups needed. It's just objective math using your actual numbers.
And that brings us to our final takeaway for this explainer. Run the numbers, then make the call. Seriously, don't let fear, guilt, or pure guesswork dictate your financial future. Let objective math guide you. Use the tools that are out there, understand the incredible power of compounding, and take calculated action on your wealth. So, I gotta ask you, tonight, when you look at your own budget, what is your $500 going to do tomorrow?